everybody. I'm back up in the Peak District this weekend. I'm up here for the Peak District Mines Historical Society 65th anniversary celebrations. Now I've just come up for the one night. It's Saturday today and I'm on the lovely Flagg Hall Caravan and Motorhome Club certified location. And at the moment I'm just filling up the van with water. Well, what an absolutely gorgeous sight this is. I am in a little bit of a hurry though. It took me a little bit longer to get here than I thought. The festivities start up at Magpie Mine at 1 o'clock and it is 1 minute to 1 now. But just going to grab myself a quick lunch before I head up there. And I'm afraid that's just going to be this chicken, bacon and sweet corn salad. A shop bought thing that I got from the service station on the way up here. Now I booked a site as close to the mine as I could get, but it is still 2 or 3 miles away. So I bought the Engwe Engine X along to get me there. Now it is a fairly heavy bike, but it doesn't weigh more than both my and Nikki bikes combined, so I was fairly happy to put it on the bike rack here. Anyhow, let's get it off so we can get going. There we go. You see, I have got my camping chair on the back of the bike. Did get a message to say bring your own chair, and I think it might be worth taking a waterproof too. Now the only thing I have spotted is that despite the foam rubber protection on the bike rack, the paint finish does seem to have rubbed during transit on the Engwe Engine X bike. It's aluminium underneath, so I guess there's not too much of a corrosion problem, but that is a bit of a shame. Oh well, no point crying over spilt milk, I suppose. Let's get up to Magpie Mine before we miss too much of the celebration. Well, I do enjoy travelling through the Peak District countryside, and the Engwe Engine X is exactly the right sort of bike to do it on. I can take all the gear I need, in this instance a camping chair, and just travel with sort of relative comfort and ease, not having to exert myself too much, and arrive at my destination still perfectly refreshed and able to enjoy the afternoon. Well, I've arrived at Magpie Mine and found a place to park my bike, and yeah, it looks like the event is already in full swing. And really, there's no better place to be on a summer's afternoon than up at Magpie Mine. As part of the celebrations, we're having a walking tour of Magpie Mine. Now, Magpie Mine is a great place to visit. It is open all year round. It's free to come in and look around. You can't drive up the track under normal circumstances. That's a special concession for these celebrations, but there are parking spaces by the roadside as the track comes up to the mine. Now, there are organised walks and tours around the mine site on occasions, in particular Heritage Open Days and things like that, so keep an eye out for those. They're always great to get all the extra history, and yeah, what a lovely place. Just to give you a brief potted history, the earliest recorded workings here at Magpie from around 1740. The mines always had difficulties with water ingress and keeping the workings dry. In 1824, the first pumping engine was put in on the main shaft, and in 1827 they managed to produce 800 tons of lead, which is pretty good for a mine around that time. Now, there were lots of disputes with neighbouring mines, lots of mines very close together trying to work the lead vein in this area. And yeah, that led to the famous Magpie murders. And if you want to hear the story of that, well, you have to come and do one of the guided tours around the site. As well as the barbecue, there were not one but two celebration fruitcakes, which were very nice. These were handmade by one of the members and much appreciated by everyone there, I can tell you.
And the society has now made 65 years. I don't know if Axel Chapman is still around. But what behind Solomon, but right the Solomon was at the original meeting at which this society was formed in Sheffield at the university, I think. But as you will, yes.
And the food didn't stop with the barbecue and the cake. There was more to eat laid out inside. Another popular game was to see how deep a hole you could hand drill in a minute. We also had a bonfire with a mining theme, as the wood that's been burnt is the old lagging off the engine house winding drum, which is currently undergoing some restoration. Very nice to sit round with a beer, chatting to old friends. Until it was time to get back on the Engwe Engine X and to head back to the campsite. Well, I'm back at Flagg Hall campsite, and yeah, what a fantastic event that was at Magpie Mine. Lots of old faces and new faces to catch up with, but yeah, now I'm going to take the battery out of the Engine X and put it on charge for the morning, because I've got a mine trip in the morning, and yeah, obviously the bike is the only means of getting there, really. I suppose I could just uproot and take the van, but there's not a lot of parking space down there. Well, Sunday morning, and today I'm going to have a trip into one of my favourite places. It's one of the last drainage levels to be dug in Derbyshire, so best have a nice hearty breakfast. Well, I've been thinking about it, and I think the best way to do this is to get geared up here at the van and then ride down to the mine all ready to go. Well, it's a bit of a dull morning. There's a bit of a sort of a damp feeling to the air. It's not actually raining yet, but I think it may well rain later on. But that's not going to worry us, because we're going to be underground, and as you'll see, we're going to get pretty wet anyway. pretty steep hill to ride down to get to the entrance, and yeah, I'm having to sit on the brakes a little bit. And just like that, we're underground. Now, as I often have to sometimes, I'm not showing the direct approach to the mine level that we're in today, nor am I giving it any proper name to help identify the site, although anyone who's been in there will perhaps recognise it straight away. We are here accessing the mine with the permission of the landowner. It very kindly allowed us to take a trip up here. The site is secured and not available for casual access, and really not advisable for the inexperienced explorer anyway. Permission to access this mine isn't given very often at all, so we are very lucky to be able to look up here, and of course we want to share it with you, but obviously not encourage anyone else to attempt to access this without permission. If you are interested in exploring old mine workings, then I highly recommend that you contact one of the mining societies around the country, Peak District Mines Historical Society being a very good choice, especially if you want to go underground in Derbyshire, and of course you can arrange access through the underground section of those clubs. As usual, I'd caution against anyone inexperienced or not properly equipped venturing underground into abandoned mine workings. There are a number of dangers, both obvious and not so obvious. We've got a section of bad ground here. You can see it has in the past been reinforced with some steel rings, but the roof has collapsed regardless, and we're going to have to climb up and over through the collapse to get past. Right, now it's my turn, so you're going to get a bit of first person point of view footage of climbing through this collapse. Right, just got to squeeze through there to get back down to water level. It's not too bad really, it looks narrower than it is. Now, although primarily built to drain the mine from the levels lower down that were pumped up, you can see there's an awful lot of groundwater that does flow into the level itself, and makes up a significant part of the flow out. Now, one really interesting feature of this mine level are these underground lock gates. This was in fact at one point a boat level, so waste rock from the workings was floated out this level by boat, and they'd use these lock gates as sort of flushing locks to build up a head of water behind, and then open them and flush the boat full of waste rock out through the mine level. Now, as I said before, this was the last major Derbyshire SUF that was constructed, and it was built between 1873 and 1881, and it's around 2 kilometres long. And here the SUF has intersected with a source of thermal water under pressure coming up from below, and in fact when the SUF was driven and hit this, the water supply for the village above dried up, and they had to provide pumped water back up to the village. now that we've passed that, we're more or less out of the deep water, and you can see the water that's coming up out of the main shaft is just contained by this little gutter we're walking alongside. And here's a nice little pocket or vug of crystals that you can stick your head up into. Now we're heading up a side passage into what would have been a natural cavity, and this cavity is filled with sphalerite crystals or zinc sulfide crystals, and it was used or promoted as being part of the reason for driving the level. So the level was supposed to be partially funded by extracting zinc from this chamber, but we don't think it really contributed much really in the grand scheme of things. But it's a lovely place with lots of pretty crystals. I'm going to have a little look up here, although I know it doesn't go very far. Look at these fantastic crystals. The miners called these dogtooth spar. Right, I'm going to have a little crawl up into this hole. Now there's rather a big drop at the end back into the main sough passage, so back the way I come. Well, we're back in the sough now, and there's some rails remaining here and a little wagon too. So you've got a choice along this section to either walk up on the rails but have to stoop over as you walk, or to walk in the gutter and get your feet wet but be able to walk upright. Most people choose to do a little bit of both. I'm not sure what the purpose of this little wall across the level is, but it provides another amusing obstacle on our way to the end. reached the end of the accessible section of the sough really here. Many years ago it used to be possible to get right through to the shaft. We're only really a matter of feet away, but unfortunately the end section is no longer possible to get through. So there is a little bit here where you can climb up into some of the vein workings of the mine, and that's what we're going to do now. Trick here is to get yourself somehow up onto these pipes. There's plenty of little handholds and footholds, just a little bit awkward in parts. And here is a good example of one of the main hazards of exploring abandoned mine workings. This would once have been a suspended timber floor in a vertical stope, and yeah, you can see the timbers are rotted away and the floor is collapsing away beneath us. We're okay though, because these pipes bridge the gap. Now it may be possible to use the pipes on the wall here to get across and access a little bit more of the workings, but I'm told they don't go very far, so discretion being the better part of valour, we're going to turn around and explore in the other direction. There's some big balks of timber on the right just up here that may perhaps once have been part of the original pump rods down the main shaft. When I first came up here about 14 years ago now, I believe it was, you could actually access quite a little bit more than we can get to now because of recent collapses, so it does make you wonder how far you'll be able to get in future years. This ladder looks just a little bit too delicate to try, but as you can see, the workings that it leads down to are flooded in any case. Well, back up the level we go to exit the mine, and as we walk up here we get sort of quite spread out. It's very easy to navigate, there's no real way you can go wrong, so just all make our way individually back up the level, and as we go it's interesting to wonder if I'll ever get back in here. Access, as I say, is not granted very often, and this could possibly be the last time I ever see this place. So yeah, quite poignant really, and lovely just to sort of amble along in the darkness with your own thoughts. I know, of course, not everyone will see the appeal of spending time in places like this, but it is an absolutely wonderful place, and amazing to think of the sort of human effort and work that went into constructing it, and we are indeed very privileged to be one of the very few people who get to see it these days. Well, that's my underground trip over, and I'm back on the Engwe Engine X, heading back to the campsite. There is a bit of light drizzle. It's been an absolutely fantastic weekend, and yeah, I have really enjoyed it. Well, I'm back in the van now. What a fantastic weekend it's been, with the social event on Saturday and the underground trip on Sunday. And the Engwe Engine X was the ideal bike to take me round the various places I need to be. Well, I'm absolutely freezing and soaking wet, so I'm going to have myself a nice cup of tea and a warm shower before I pack up the van here at Flagg Farm CL and head home. Hope you've enjoyed coming along with me this weekend. I've certainly had a fantastic time, and yeah, we'll see you again soon in the next video.